Thomas McRocklin.
Hello! Lovely to see you. I've got to say, actually, I've been just chatting to you for a couple of minutes here, but I tell you what, Brandon, you are looking well, my friend. You are looking very well.
Haircut. I got a zit here, so that doesn't help, you know?
Is it a good haircut? Yeah, I tell you what, speaking of haircuts, my mood just deteriorates over the course of about 4 weeks, and then the moment I get that fresh fade, the fresh cut, I'm like, do you get that feeling as well, or is that just me? Do you feel like a new guy sometimes?
I actually do feel like a new guy with this haircut, but this is also like the shortest it's ever been in years.
Okay. Uh-huh.
It's fine, because it actually grows back really quickly.
Yeah, that's the trouble.
Yeah, exactly. But
nice.
You took a 20-year break from playing guitar. I want to start there because this is actually a very common thing that I see with students is they will get involved with guitar when they're a little bit younger, maybe they're high school years, university or something like that. And then they'll also have to take a break because, you know, they've got other commitments like family and their career, you know, all that useless stuff. So I just want, like, because you took a break too, right? But you shred. So I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess for me, it was just a bit of burnout. And also, I just fell out of love it. And I have a really obsessive personality. So I started playing when I was really, really young, like four years old, playing my face tune, and started to get into doing TV shows and all that sort of stuff by the time I was 7 and 8. And when I was 8 years old, I opened for Ozzy Osbourne, and it just spiraled into all this stuff. And by the time I was 9, 10 years old, I was flying back and forwards to the States. I'm from the UK, so it was like, you know, back and forwards. And back then, you know, a 12-hour flight was like, oh, gosh. It's not like a 12-hour flight these days. You watch a few movies, you chill, you have a bit of this, and, you know, it was like hell on a plane. But that aside, you know, there were some amazing times. But I guess by the time I was 14, 15, 16, and I was, you know, living with Steve Vai and doing all the sort of Joe Satriani tours with my band, it got to the point suddenly at that age where coming back to the UK and just doing regular stuff with my friends, that was like something I look forward to much more than doing the other stuff. And I don't know if it was just too much, too young of an age, or the obsessive personality just dropped the guitar, because when I got to about 15, 16, you know, guitar was like becoming really less of an interesting thing for me, and I was really into like hip hop and drum and bass. And I got my first sampler and my first Korg workstation, and just doing stuff with those, that was like revolutionary. It was like really, really fun. And it was really difficult at that time to like merge the guitar with the electronic music stuff that I was interested in. Even though I had like a Tascam 8-track, it just wasn't like fluent. Like now, we drop some drums, we grab a bass, it's all really fluent. We want to play guitar, we just use one plugin, and it's like amazing. But back then, it wasn't really the case, and I did go to the studio to do like electronic and guitar album, but ultimately the electronic music was just like, that's what I was into all of a sudden. And I got to about 17 or 18, and I just literally went from playing 10 hours a day plus touring and gigging and doing, you know, guest appearances to just zero. It was just like a cold stop, and that was it. Regular life took over, and it was like the start of a new chapter. And a lot of people were like really, really surprised and shocked, you know, to hear that. And it took some time for like people to stop talking about it, and especially close people that were close to me. But yeah, it was just like a cold stop around when I was about 17 or 18 years old, and it wasn't until 2017 where I first picked up the guitar again and started to get into it.
Mm-hmm. So what was taking place during those years in between, like just like family stuff, like what were you doing? Yeah, regular
stuff. Yeah. So when I was like 18 years old, when I came back to the UK, like one of my best friends worked in a music store, and I was like, the time before this, I was living with Vi, and what I was really, really interested in was studio gear. Like, I was drilling by. I'm like, how does the bus work? How does this compressor work? And we were tracking guitars, but every time like we were finished tracking, I was just really, really interested in the studio side of things. And I was in the studio with guys like Jimmy Iovine, who I think he's like an Apple guy now, but then he was like the head honcho in a scope. He might still be actually. But he's also like an amazing producer. So when I got in the studio and saw that he was producing this Bad for Good record that was so bad it never got released, but that aside, like it was just so like I found that side of things like really, really cool, and just I was really interested in that. So when I came back to the UK, I was like always in and out of this music store, and I knew loads about Akai samplers, synths, and everything on that side of things, and I was like less interested in the guitar. So I was always in this music store, and the guy's like, "Do you want to just help us out here and do some work here?" And then I just really got into the retail side of things, and then I became a complete pain in the arse for the competitors around the corner because I was like selling all the Akai samplers, taking all their sales, and it was just like they just hated it. So then they came to me to try and recruit to me to go there to run their tech and PA side of things. So I was like, oh well, it sounds like a promotion. So I went there, and then I ended up running a music store. And then some years later, that whole store got bought out by another company. Then I ended up becoming the manager of a larger retail store. And that was kind of like part of my life. But the other part was I was also mastering like hundreds of records a month at this point and producing a lot of tracks. So I guess it was like three things. Family stuff. I got married really, really early, like when I was a teenager, like 18 years old. So family stuff, the music store stuff, and when I wasn't doing that, I was mastering like tons of tracks. That was like something I was really into. At first, it was producing music for people, but then it really became all about mastering. That's something I got really passionately into, and that was cool as well. And that's one side of things that served me really well coming back to music, is just being fluent with gear and certain chains, as in translating what would happen in the real world with patching a bunch of gear into like a DAW. I think that was it made for a more fluent transition, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And yeah, it seems like the skills that you've acquired over the years, even when you weren't as active playing guitar, they like you saw a lot of returns like on your time from doing those things, because what you're doing now, they all just everything blended together pretty well, it seems.
Yeah, I think so. The only thing that didn't blend very well, Brandon, is my professional Counter-Strike gaming days. That was a 3-year, maybe 4-year massive distraction, and yes, I was amongst this time period. I was obsessed with a game called Counter-Strike, and it's funny because my bass player at that time introduced me to the game, but he didn't know what kind of obsessive personality I had. And then the next thing I know, I'm in a professional clan. We're gaming, until like 3 a.m. Then I'm going to the job the next morning and then coming back. So I was like burning hard for like a 3-4 year period until I just had to give up Counter-Strike at one point. So yeah, so all pretty useful apart from the Counter-Strike days.
So something that's different between you though and say maybe somebody else that gets into guitar when they're younger and then they take a 20-year break or something, is the fact that you seem to have this obsessive personality, like, because you've mentioned that a few times, and I mean, I see that, I can tell, right? So where do you think this personality comes from? Like, why do you get obsessed with things? Like, do you have any idea?
I think a lot of it probably comes from my dad. He was a little bit like that. If you think back in the day, some of the things that he did to put me in the spotlight, it was just wild. I mean, let's say, for example, how did I meet Steve Vai for the first time? Well, we drove 6 hours down the country with no tickets to get into the Monsters of Rock. The only thing we had was me dressed in leather, head to toe, and a brand new Ibanez Gem, so kind of looked like this crazy little rock star kid. But that was it. It was just pure chances like that. Same for opening up for Ozzy Osbourne. We turn up at the back entrance of like an arena or a club, whatever it was at the time. And it's like this kid's like absolutely just looking like a lunatic, dressed in leather, and he's like 7 or 8 years old. It's almost like it's like a comedy moment, you know? It's like the management's like, Ozzy's got to see this kid. And then the next thing you know, it's like, can you play that thing? Plug him in. And then Zach's laughing, and then, you know, and then the next thing you know, I'm like being asked to open up for the show. So a lot of the, like these kind of moments, it's just my dad like saying, I've got this idea, let's try it, you know? And he's a little bit, you know, like he had, I think a lot of the opportunities when he was a kid taken away from him. He didn't really have the support from his dad. So I think he had the sort of mindset where if there was any potential, you know, talent or ways that he can help, he would go all out. And I think the way that he approached a lot of those situations probably rubbed off on me, where maybe in a slightly different way, because, you know, he you know, has his quirks, as we all do. But like, I think he definitely has that same kind of obsessive thing, you know. He got into antiques. His whole house was just covered in antiques. You know, it's like that. That's exactly my kind of like personality traits right there, you know, but just in a different way.
Gotcha. So do you have any brothers or sisters that also got this personality trait, or are you like an only child?
Just me. I'm the middle child, but they're all just not as obsessive as me, and they're not, you know, they're doing their things, and, you know, they're doing different jobs and have different companies and all that stuff. But I'm just here on my own island, like doing this. So yeah, I'm the only one that's that obsessive, I guess.
For sure. So you've got a lot of things going on, right? So how do you find time to practice? This is also another thing that a lot of students have problems with, because, you know, they've got a ton of different things, but practicing sometimes doesn't find its way into the mix. But that's no excuse for you, because, I mean, I guess you've made a career of it, but I'm just curious, like, how often do you practice? What do you practice? That kind of stuff.
I practice very rarely these days. Don't get me wrong, when I took a big break, I had to work my arse off for 2 years, you know, really. And the first 6 months of that was rediscovering my sound, because the first 6 months of returning to the guitar in 2017, I was starting to sound like I was when I was a teenager. It was almost like I just picked up from where I left off. And back then there was a lot of Vi influence, and maybe, you know, guitar heavyweights of that era were in my playing. And then I had one of those moments where, like, someone said, actually, I was in the Bogner factory in LA trying some amps out, and this guy walked past me and he's like, "Hey man, you sound like just like Vi." And it was just like, you ever seen those slow motion, slow dream moments where you're stuck in the mud and the voice is repeating? Just like Vi, just like Vi. It was probably something like,
just like Vi, just like Vi.
You know, something like that. Anyway, like that, like, just hit hard. I was like, oh, you know, I had such a Vi association. I mean, don't get me wrong, Steve's an amazing guy and like an amazing artist, and I have huge amounts of respect for Steve, but I'd had such an association with him when I was a kid, because I did the Steve Vai guitar campaign adverts with Ibanez. I was in Steve Vai's video and he produced my album, so it was this like thing. And I was like, oh, I want my own sound now, you know? And that really helped me in terms of practice, because I wanted to get way better at alternate picking. So I spent like 6 months just studying the mechanics of my right hand. This is still in 2017. So the first 6 months, I'm jamming, I'm playing, I'm kind of like feeling things out. And then I have a bit of a shell shock moment. I'm like, nah, I don't want to play like that. I want to play like this and have something brand new, because I was really, and still am, into like rap records, well, rap in general, and drum and bass. So for me, I wanted my alternate picking to almost be like Eminem in terms of like the articulation and the phrasing on a guitar. So that meant I had to practice a lot of alternate picking, and it just kind of went like that. And these days, like the way I practice now, if I'm live streaming for like 2.5 hours, I mean, that's quite a workout in a lot of ways, because we're probably doing at least half of that time jamming through tracks. But I guess the main focus, like in general, is if I'm writing a song, a lot of the time I write phrases that's harder than what I can play in real time. So when I write a new solo, I'll kind of comp little bits together and then relearn that as a new thing. And that feels like quite challenging. But then you learn it and it's like you've got some new dexterity and new ways of delivering. So that's probably like the only way that I really truly practice. In that sense, where I'm really pushing my fingers to try new things, trying to break muscle memory and trying to develop new habits and stuff, is in those moments when I'm recording for either my solo stuff or the McRocklin Hutch band, or like probably more like something that would be released as opposed to a demo or something like that. But in general, I mean, I just love like coming in here and obviously now I have a software company, so a lot of the time I'm putting beats on and I'm working on new sounds and it's like jamming around, for like a couple of hours whilst we work on new tones. And when I'm doing that, I kind of think about like trying to push myself out of my comfort zone. So I know this is a bit of a long answer, but yeah, it just really depends. But I think recording and relearning them, that's my single biggest dump of time where I try and get better at one thing.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. And yeah, I mean, hey, long answers are cool with me. And you also touched on alternate picking there. And that's interesting to me because alternate picking seems to be one of the universally agreed upon more difficult techniques in terms of playing guitar. I mean, maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. But I would be curious to hear your thoughts on that and how one becomes a faster alternate picker, because it's easy to do but it's hard to master, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. And I was definitely more of a left-handed lead player in my earlier days, and it wasn't until I spent so much time really learning. And I think for me, like some of the things that really help is like just being aware of angles, so like pick slanting, a lot of the time you might want to have the pick pointed towards the bridge, so you're not very parallel with the strings, you're much more like this kind of angle. So if I kind of load, I don't know, something like a shreddy tone. So this is the first time I've played today, so it'll probably be rubbish, but let's say I'm just going to go like chromatic, we're going to go from like E to E. So what's happening there, a lot of the time when I switch strings is very subtle changes in the angle, and it's all about like just keeping that pick gliding and having very little resistance. And then the way you do that is by having just the little front edge of your pick, but it's pointed towards the bridge, so it's very easy to like escape at the B string and get to the G string. But there's tons of exercises, and I was doing a lot of exercises that really like work specifically on picking mechanics. It definitely is a very challenging technique, and I feel like a lot of people they struggle to get the power, because when you become really good at alternate picking, you actually need a lot of string noise. As in, like if I have my guitar down, the strings are like they're really like they've got a lot of energy into them, which is forcing that tone into the amp. So stuff like that really helps, but I feel like a lot of guitarists, they struggle to get that energy and volume out of the strings, and they end up being a little bit tamer. And it's a little, and don't get me wrong, of course you can be very subtle, like you can play fast, like, like that. But a lot of the time when you're shredding and you're gunning, you do need some energy into those strings to make it happen. And I think a lot of the time, like numbers is something that trips people up as well, as in like 3 notes per string going into 2, going into 1. Like it's very easy for them to, I don't know, like play a minor scale. And then the 2 notes per string will trip them up. And it's just kind of like just getting used to things like that. But yeah, it's a big one. It's a big question. I could sit and yap on for a long time on alternate picking.
Well, before we wrap up the alternate picking, though, another question about it. So, some people I find when they alternate pick, they will actually like move their thumb a little bit, and they'll work like that small motion into their alternate picking. It didn't look like you were, so yay or nay?
I hate that. Yeah, I hate that. I hate it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't do a lot of one-to-ones because I mostly upload lessons, but all the lessons that I have on alternate picking, none of them encourage that kind of mechanic. I just don't like it. Yeah, visually, I'm not keen on it, but just like the way that it limits you in terms of power and stuff. And, you know, some people, you know, it's like, what you're going to do? Like when you look at legendary guitarists, I mean, if you look at Van Halen, you know, and there's other guitarists where you look at them and you think, would I do it like that? But you wouldn't want to change a single thing about Eddie or any of these legendary guitarists. It's like, so if it works and it's like doing its thing for you, then, you know, then that's fine. But if we were to like start alternate picking and really trying to push the progress from scratch, I would discourage the thumb twitch thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm of a similar mindset. And it's just weird because it's one of those things where like guitar is so diverse in the sense that there's more than one correct way to do things. Because I've seen people that are very fast alternate pickers that love that. And then, you know, guys like yourself and like there's a lot of fast guys out there that don't do it. So it's like, it's not like one is right or wrong, but they're just different. But yeah, I'm not a fan of the thumb twitch either.
It's not that one's right or wrong. It's just that doing it with your thumb and index fingers wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. What is something what is something that is wrong when it comes to learning guitar? Like what do people do wrong in your experience that you see and you're like?
The biggest one is thumb over the top. That's got to, yeah, especially with like shred guitar, because a lot of this stuff, it's all about leverage. It's about power on the fretboard. And a lot of time people are just so used to the thumb up here, and that just limits the angles that you can get to. So a lot of the sort of shred stuff, I definitely feel like I'm struggling. So it's literally like the first pickups. But a lot of the time, if you try to do that type of playing with your thumb up here, you just don't have the leverage. So you then start clanging other notes. So a lot of the time, you kind of really want that thumb a little bit lower down and kind of have that pointed towards the lower part of the neck. And it's that feeling of slinging that wrist nice and low. Yeah. Yeah, I feel so sloppy today, but it's like, it's that motion of just having it down that really, really helps with a lot of that stuff. So that's got to be like the number one thing that I spot, especially if I do like a one-on-one lesson. It's like, okay, there's a time and place for having your thumb up there, but a lot of the stuff that I'm teaching, it really requires that kind of motion. It's just often not a feeling that people are used to at first.
Totally. Yeah, I find you get that a lot with Hendrix and Mayer fans because that's the grip that they use, right? So but,
that's where the tone is. Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to obviously other styles of music, and I mean, it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. I mean, there's more than one right way to do things, but then for some things, it's just there are clear, better ways, right?
Yeah. And I think it's, a lot of these things are like, as long as you're aware of them, you know, and like, you know, it's like if you're smashing out some chords and you've got like a really dry, clean, you know, you might want to have that thumb. And then you go into the shred. Then you got to drop it down, and as long as you're aware of it, you can transition between the two and get the best of both worlds. That's totally cool. But a lot of the time, I think early players or players that's early in their career or progression, they they kind of have everything almost locked in place a lot of the time, and so the hand will be like a little bit more one position. They don't adapt and change. And the same with the right hand. It's more just like, oh, I'm altered picking, so that's just down up. But there's so many pick slanting ways you can tilt the pick and just get extra leverage to make everything so much easier. And a lot of my approaches to playing, it's like I try to make everything as easy as possible to play while sounding really fast and fluent. So there's certain like little traits and habits that I've built into like the way I deliver like licks and stuff that really, really help with that type of playing, because you know, who doesn't want to make it easier to play? You don't want it to feel like you're having a workout when you're playing a track or something, you know?
Yeah, take the path of most resistance, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to take the path of least resistance for
Yeah.
those of you that couldn't hit the sarcasm.
Guitar Shifts! 52-week guitar player is currently closed for enrollment. Enrollment resumes on June 16th. But if you join the waiting list, you will be notified before everyone else. This means you'll be among the first in line, which means you'll know before my entire YouTube channel and other social channels as well. So if you're an adult male that plays at an intermediate level, guitar used to be a big part of your life, but you had to set it down due to other commitments. You want to improve your knowledge of the fretboard, improv, and compositional skill. You're serious, and you want cut and paste practice routines that were designed by a professional and are proven to work. Well, you've come to the right place, damn it. There are currently over 600 guitar players in our community who share many of these traits. You're gonna make so much progress here that all your friends get pissed off, but not even mad. Because we offer a 170 plus structured lesson curriculum. The lessons come with built-in practice routines that will tell you exactly what to do step by step, as well as why you're doing it and when to move on to the next one. A Facebook group to share progress videos and get professional feedback. Group Zoom coaching calls 3 times a week to have your questions answered and get your playing roasted. A new backing track shared every week for you to improvise over and get roasted on that too. Accountability, and we do this by making you share a progress video every week for 52 weeks in a row. If you fail to post, I will personally call you out. And very good-looking instructors. And who we do not work with: uncertain people, busy, annoying high school students that have way too many things going on, anyone looking for an easy route to be good, information gatherers that never take action, and people only looking to learn parts of songs. So if you're interested, here's what you gotta do. Step 1 is click this link. It can be found in the description of this video. It'll take you to this page. And then step 2 is just add your name to the waiting list. And that's it. It's fucking easy, mate. And now back to our conversation.
I was gonna ask you about what you think of the modern guitar scene, because I remember your videos from way back in 2017 and 2018 and 2019 as well, and all of those, like the Instagram days, you know? You and I were pretty pretty heavy into that.
Yeah,
back in the day.
we were banging. Yeah, we were banging back then. Yeah. It's funny. I guess since those days, I think some of the excitement to make those kind of videos, and I think I've just moved on to other things. You know, I moved on to, you know, like the school, and then I kind of got into YouTube for a little while, but then I realized that like content in general is something that I'm probably starting to fade out of a little bit, in terms of like, now I'm really about Polychrome DSP, and you know, I don't get me wrong, I do like checking out the latest gear, and there's loads of pedals which is over there, but I tend to not take on a lot of those things. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Like, there's some amazing guitarists online and doing their thing in the real world as well. But I just don't listen to a lot of guitar-related stuff. It's like, even the most prolific guitarists on Instagram, I just don't have the attention span to watch more than 2 seconds of it. You know, it doesn't excite me. But making amazing tones for those guys, that's like, oh, you know, like, how can we make that better? How can we make it easier to do this? That's what kind of excites me the most right now. And I guess that goes back to the obsessive personality thing, you know? It's like, if I'm into something, it's just like, that's the number one thing, you know? But yeah, but I remember those 2017, 2018, 2019, you know, we were like absolutely just going ballistic during those times. Millions of views a month on Instagram. Madness.
Yeah, man, like those days are definitely gone for the both of us, though, I would say, in the sense that, like, I mean, I post on Instagram, but Like I create one video that can just be distributed across all platforms. Like it's not like it's designed specifically for Instagram.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was fun and everything, but I mean, there's just more to life than Instagram, you know? It's like...
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I'm still like, I'm really, really grateful for that time period because it did lead to a lot of opportunities, you know, working with great brands and forming partnerships. And obviously that led to even like guitars like the Kiesel, the MCL 6X. And, you know, this is my signature guitar and it's got my custom Fishman pickups. And I'm sure Instagram really, really helped to play a part in forging those relationships. But yeah, I think it's really, yeah, I think like yourself, it's like you peak at something and then once you hit that level, it's like, okay, is that it? What do we do now? It's like you're always looking for the next thing. So I'm definitely like that, and I'm so glad that I, you know, found this kind of passion really that I can have this outlet, you know, and kind of creating things now with Polychrome DSP, because I don't know where that energy would go otherwise, you know. It's like, and it's because I'm developing and working so much with the Polychrome team, I'm playing a lot because of it, because we're developing new products, working on new updates, and you know, when we developed my suite, the McRocklin suite, you know, I was playing like 8-9 hours a night, just like intently listen to overdrive pedals, and it's like 20 changes to be made the next day and all little tweaks to this drive, this amp, and then you go again. And I did that for like months. And during the development of Polychrome, like my fingers were probably the most, well, the strongest that they've ever been, just because I was playing so damn much, you know. It's crazy. So whatever gets me playing and you know, keeping me playing, I think is a good thing as well, because otherwise it's so easy these days to go, oh, well, I'll put it down for a couple of weeks. That turns to a couple of months, and you know, after a couple of months, you pick the guitar up, it feels like you're playing with boxing gloves on. It's like, that doesn't feel good. And then it's like, I'll just go play some Xbox or something like that. It's like,
100%, man. I think Kaio actually said it best on that topic when it comes to playing and practicing. I mean, basically, to summarize what you said, Kaio, this was a few podcasts back, but he said we act a lot differently when we are forced to versus like having the choice or something along those lines.
totally.
I mean, because you can pick up the guitar and you can practice, but if you're forced, like if there's something external that needs your attention, like that you're doing it for, then, you know, it totally changes the ball game, right? So
Totally. And yeah, that was one thing when I was, you know, a young kid. I was playing 7, 8, 9 hours a day, and I was never once told by my dad, hey, it's 8 o'clock, do you want to do an hour practice? Do you want to get your music books out? Because, you know, I was doing classical lessons and all sorts of shit, but it was never ever forced. And I think, I mean, during that time period, there was no tablets, YouTube. There's so little distracted, you know. Like I remember when the only thing to play was a NES, you know, like the original Nintendo, and it's like that was it. It was so easy to just blast 7, 8, 9 hours shredding and practicing and stuff, you know. So, but I think, yeah, you're right. Just having that want and need to just pick up the guitar and play and discover new things and ways of delivering things, and being aware of your weaknesses and like trying to work on riffs and licks that highlight your weaknesses so you can get better and kind of disguise and iron them out completely. You know, all of that stuff really, really helps. But yeah, it's different times now, isn't it? I feel like a lot of guys might struggle because, you know, how do you invest 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours into guitar these days? I mean, you have to have a very understanding family or wife or whatever the situation is, you know, to do that these days. There's so many, you know, maybe some social commitments and online commitments and stuff, you know. So but these days I'm a big believer in like quality practice time as opposed to quantity, and it's why what I do often in terms of practice is often just a byproduct of working on Polychrome, writing a solo for a song or something like that, and that kind of like, it's like two killing two birds with one stone, is the phrase, I think.
Yeah, I believe that is the phrase.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, let's talk a little bit about Polychrome because I actually tried Polychrome, as you know.
Oh,
And-
yes, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, and you know, I was sifting through the different presets and everything, and the one that stood out to me as my absolute favorite was that the name kind of escapes me. Teleport was at the end of it. It was something teleport.
Okay.
And
Was it clean, or was
it was a
like,
clean
what
channel,
kind of
yeah.
tone was it?
It was the acoustic amp.
Oh, okay. Let's have a listen. Let's have a look. It might have been a preset by what you're saying. It might have been a preset called Afterglow, if that rings a bell.
No, it wasn't that one. I'm actually gonna pull it up too.
Okay.
Can you guys hear that?
I can't hear it. Not here, but let me just
So-
check.
It's Sean W. Teleport.
Oh, okay. So that's, yeah, I think one of our members made that. Yeah. So one of the beta testers. Yeah. Sean Teleport. Yeah. He I think he had like a series. Sorry, I'll share. I think. Let me actually full screen that. Sorry, it's just showing the whole thing. There we go. There we go. Like the acoustic stuff, like we have 4 different profiles, and then we don't really do a shimmer because I'm not a big fan of shimmer, but we do pitch delays. So that's how we get that shimmery effects. If I turn the delay off, and I'll put the delay on with a pitch at 0, it's just delay, right? But if I crank the pitch up, kind of really nice. Yeah, we have like over 400 presets now, so it's like absolute chaos. There's so much choice, you know. Like I saw Jared Dines had it on his stream the other night just by chance, and someone tagged me on the Discord, and I honestly, it was 3 in the morning in the UK, and I was like, oh, Jared's got the plugin on. This is cool. I'm gonna check it out. And he was literally doing a stream, and it went on for 4 hours. And every time he loaded a preset, he was like playing a song for like 3 minutes. I'm like, man, it's like 6 in the morning now. I've got to get to bed. But it was like wild. But yeah, we have a lot of presets. But yeah, I think that one that you mentioned there, that sounds like maybe the bonus section. That might be Sean's spellbook. Was it? Did he say Sean's spellbook, or am I hearing Teleport? There we go. Okay, I haven't heard this one in a while. Okay, so it's just a very kind of chilled out, clean. Oh, what a chord to play! Terrible chord. Yeah, it's just a kind of simple clean, but
Yeah.
it's quite sparkly, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah.
there
So
were-
the acoustic, very different. Sorry, Brian. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, when I created the video, well, I created that video. I also used it in another video, but yeah, the people in the comment section
Okay.
were they noticed.
nice.
They were like, yeah, this is a very nice tone. So
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, we put a lot of work into it, and there was a lot of companies that tried to make this plugin before I formed Polychrome. Like, literally 4 big companies, big boys, big players, because I wanted to do a plugin for maybe 3-4 years, and I had this kind of thing, like the concept in mind, because my previous setup was like, it was using, you know, Eventide reverbs, SSL channel strips, sound toys, delays. It was massive. And then I had all the amp sims. Then I had a Bogner Harlow and different drive pedals. It was just like chaos, you know. It's like you couldn't recreate it if you wanted to go and do a gig or live show or a masterclass or something. It was impossible, you know. And then whilst I was live streaming, the big question was, what are you using for your tones? It sounds really good. And it was like $5,000 worth of stuff. It's like, oh, it was a nightmare. So I had this concept to like do all of my favorite things in one plugin, and you know, I got asked to do a plugin by various brands, and I would send them the list. I was like, this is the suite, and they'd be like, yeah, no problem. And then it's like 2 weeks later, so we can't do this, but we can do this. We can do this, but not this. I was like, well, you know, it's like I'm gonna have to pad it up with like all these other plugins, and it kind of defeats the point. So I put it on the back burner until we just the right combinations of people came together, and we were really, really very much on the same lines, and we started to try very small elements of the suite until we realized that, yeah, actually this can be done. It's possible. And so for me, it's like a dream come true, because not only is it like the first product that we've released, but it kind of replaces all of that gear that I was using previously. And excuse me, even when I was doing like alpha testing, I took it to a gig and smashed it through a big live PA system. It was great. It runs at like 0.0 latency. So a lot of other plugins, they run at like anywhere between 1.5 and 2.6 on average latency. And that's really, for a guitarist, like, well, a lot of guitarists, that's really bad, because you spend all this money on getting a brand new machine, in this case, a Thunderbolt audio interface. You spend all this cash for me to get 6 milliseconds of latency from my audio interface and DAW, and then the software comes around and adds 2.6 milliseconds latency. It adds like 20%, more than 20% of extra latency for your hard-earned money. So it's like I needed the plugin to run at 0 latency. So we have like the craziest lowest latency for a plugin, especially considering the level of algorithms that we're using for like the reverbs. Those algorithms, like, they're not just like something you would turn off and go and replace with the third-party reverbs. They're like incredible algorithms. But yeah, the whole plugin runs at 0.026 milliseconds. So technically, if we round it up, 0.0, it's like 0, but you know, we're always super transparent. It's like 0.026. It's like crazy low latency, but you'll notice that when you go back and forwards with like certain brands and our brand, that's like very, very responsive. So yeah, it was a trip, you know, just figuring all this out and seeing the team kind of like pull together, and yeah, we worked really, really hard on it. So, and we're not done, you know, we've got like, I don't want to give too much away, but some really, really cool brand new features coming to the suite. So people that's invested and picked it up, it's not like, hey, there you go, thanks very much, enjoy that for 5 years, you're getting nothing new. You know, in a couple of months' time, or even from next month, we're going to be rolling out brand new features which they've never had in the suite yet. Even though it's absolutely jam-packed, it's got everything in there. But it's cool to like get something and you get something new, you know, every few months. You know, I think when I buy something, I like that anyway. So guitarists should like that.
All right, so I'm thinking here, Thomas. Brendan said earlier that a lot of times we only do stuff because we are kind of forced to, like quoting me from a past podcast. And this is me with gear and doing this kind of stuff. So I'm not really good. And when you were mentioning earlier about having like a very complicated setup and this being hard to even to explain to people what you were doing and how it's good to have this plugin. So I guess, first of all, thank you for making it easier for people like me. But also,
thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a lot of people watching this, as I am right now, like they're wondering, how can we get these plugins?
Oh, yeah, well, thank you so much for the kind words. Yeah, all the plugins is only available on polychromedsp.com. So obviously we have like a free trial, like you can check it out. So you can take it for a spin and see what you think of it. But yeah, polychromedsp.com, it's direct on the website. And if you want to hear it in action, more recently I'm streaming on Twitch. And I think just hearing something live, not a YouTube video, because, you know, I mean, I'm always super transparent. You know, when I record a YouTube video, it is what it is, you know. But I'm telling you, a lot of the reviews that you will see on various products, the product that is in review is a very small part of the chain. And I hate that, you know, because I know for a fact, you know, when people and companies launch products and then they're like portraying like this plugin is doing this sound, it ain't that case a lot of the time. There's dynamic processing, there's multi-band stuff going on, there's stereo enhancements. I've seen the projects from some big companies launching some big products. I'm like, there's 96 plugins running on here and your plugin's on like 3 guitar channels. What? It's like, seriously? And that happens all the time. So I think seeing something live, you know, where it's like, that's the only plugin to run it on all of my guitar tones. It does all the low gain stuff, you know, it does all shred stuff, it does whatever, you know, subtle stuff. If we want to go a little bit wild and have like a synth octave or something like that, do stuff like that. It chugs. And of course, like, you know, all kinds of lead sounds. Oh, that B strings flat. Yeah, we have like over 400 presets of all styles, and they're really, really well dialed in. So for people that's just not experienced in mixing and matching all different types of tones and EQs and cabs and speaker chains, it's just nice for them to just load a preset and it's like, oh, okay, sounds like a record. Let's record something, or let's have fun, you know, as opposed to like worrying about how to use all this stuff. And then if you want to get geeky, you can go crazy and do all that stuff. So yeah, very happy with it. Thank you.
Cool. So when it comes to what else you're doing, like, is because you've got the Twitch channel, you've got Polychrome, you've got the school, and
Yep.
would you say like those are the main things?
Oh, I guess in terms of where the priorities and time is, Polychrome, streaming. I really, really like streaming. You know, I just jamming and reacting to chat and the unexpected madness and chaos. You know, even last night I was streaming and I bloody ripped the triple play thing clean off my guitar, and you know, it's just stuff like that. It's like, oh, you ripped it off. You know, it's like it's broke now. But it was like such a fun moment. It's like, oh, we're all in stitches and having the time of our lives, even though we broke it, you know. And that's what I really like about live stream. It's just so sporadic and just random. But yeah, so I stream like probably 5-6 hours. Don't get me wrong, I'm not like a full-time professional streamer where I stream 10 hours a day or anything, you know. And you know, I don't really rely on it as like my main source of income, for example. But I do love live streaming. It's a lot of fun, and you get to hear and see things real, you know, and you know there's no processing, there's no cheating, there's no lying. Even the playing, it's live, right? So, but yeah, so I think going forwards, you know, I mean, over the last 6, 7, 8, 9 months, Polychrome has definitely been like the project and company that I've invested the most time in, and I think going forward, that's just going to be something that is more so the number one, because you know we've got some amazing artists joining us and amazing brands and joining us as well. So you know we've got many products to build, and our timeline is booked for like 4 years now, you know. So we have to get our heads down and just start building and growing the team, and you know, and just keep having fun and making products that like solve guitarists' problems really, and have some fun whilst we're doing it. So yeah, but the school, absolutely. I shot 3 lessons today, and YouTube. If there's a product that like really grabs my attention, like you know, all pedal. You know, I saw this on the site and I was like, oh come on, I mean that, like I didn't even know what the hell it did. I just saw the purple and green. I was like, oh, let's do a video on that, you know? And then, we grabbed some old school gems and stuff, you know? But it's not like I don't really look for brand deals and partnerships and stuff like that. And unless it's just a really, really good natural fit and something catches my eye, you know? And it's like, oh, who doesn't love a purple and green petal? So, stuff like that. And that would be a YouTube video and a little bit of an Instagram thing. And yeah, and then there's other things and stuff as well, but those are like the main ones, you know.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So the main things are the Polychrome and the streaming and the school. So,
yeah.
So are you a believer in taking one thing then and like focusing really hard on that? Or like, cause you kind of seem more like you're diversified, right? So like cause you've got a few different things that are using your focus, but maybe they're not using as much focus. Like maybe it's like an 80-20 thing.
Yeah, it just depends what exactly it is. So like, for example, let's say somebody's trying to be a full-time musician and they want to get out of their job. Then it would make sense to diverse yourself and have 5 to 10 sources of income, 100%, because you couldn't just rely on YouTube AdSense. You know, that might get you this way. And then maybe you have a store to sell some merch and direct downloads and blah, blah, blah. That's another source. And then maybe you do a subscription model and, so it's like, then you just have to prioritize, like, for like periods of time, like, okay, that needs some work to get it to this level so it can perform and be a good experience. Because, like, for me, like, there's no point in doing something unless it's going to be like something that's going to benefit someone, like, I don't know, like, let's like say, take something random like YouTube channel members, I don't really have like a massive YouTube channel, but I love making those behind the scenes YouTube channel members, and a decent amount of people, they subscribe and pay, whatever the monthly fee is for that content, but they get a totally different look on my life and gear. And it's like, it's raw. It's me just cutting around with a cell phone and complaining about the amount of cables I've just ripped apart and, all sorts of behind the scenes stuff. So it's like, if you could do something that you enjoy and you think it might be useful, because, the YouTube channel members thing, I'm like, all right, this is broke, this needs to be fixed. I did this on the stream last night and this happened. And it's like, but this is what I'm going to do. So it's like, people get to see more behind the scenes stuff, but with an actual, like, detailed, like, action plan. It is just me with a cell phone, but I'm still, like, talking about things that I'm, like, always changing my setup. So, stuff like that, I think would be really, really good for, like, a good way of thinking about it, because there's nothing worse than, like, I'm going off topic a little bit, but, like, if you're trying to become a full-time musician and you, like Kyle said earlier, like, you're trying to force things, like, you can't, and I think that's the case with any industry. It's very, it just won't be successful if you're having to force it, or it's like you're trying to do it just for one reason or something like that, But for me, for sure, it's like Polychrome, big time. School of McRock is like my commitment, because that's weekly lessons, and content now is like the last thing. And I think over the next 3-4 years, it'll just push even more that way, where I'll be doing very, very little video stuff, probably a little bit of streaming, and it'll just be working on the products with the brands, and then we'll just have artists come in and do all the showcasing and stuff like that, because it's just easier to spend the money. Just have those guys do it. They could do it. Make a lovely song. Oh, brilliant. Pay the man. Pay him the money. Yeah.
You hear that, guitar chefs? Yeah, you gotta practice, because
Yeah.
Thomas is looking for artist endorsements.
Absolutely.
I got some rapid fire questions for you before we wrap things up here.
Let's go.
Favorite guitar YouTuber?
Oh gosh, that's a good one. That's a good one. In all honesty, I don't watch a lot of YouTube guitarists, but I do find, guys like I'm a little bit on like one extreme to the other. So on the other hand, I find Bradley Hall super entertaining. He's a cool guy. He can shred, but he has a great connection with the humor side of things, and I think some of his humor is very British as well. So it's like you kind of get that. And then on the other side of things, and for some crazy reason, the name is escaping me. Does a lot of song breakdowns. Come on, we know it. It was his birthday like 2 days ago.
Trey Xavier, was it him?
No. Trey's a cool guy though. I mean, he has a huge channel, like I don't know, like 3 million subscribers.
Oh,
lovely
Rick.
guy. Yes.
Rick Beato, yeah.
Rick. Yes. Like, how did I forget that? I've got like his face was like on the like tip of my retinas, and he was going like, "It's me, you fool, it's me, Rick." Yes, I find his video, like if I'm having a morning coffee, I'm typing some emails, and and I want something that's like informative, but like he's just next level in a lot of different ways. I think he's really, really cool. So I'm like one extreme to the other. Bradley Hall to Rick. We're going to call him our Ricky boy from now on. Yeah.
Sounds like
our
a plan.
Ricky boy.
Yeah, we had Bradley on last episode, actually. We were talking to Bradley.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
He's cool. Yeah.
So
Nice.
favorite non-guitar YouTuber?
Ooh, this is good. I mean, I do like MKBHD's channel. I'll watch him. A lot of tech channels. I like Linus Tech Tips. I watch that a lot. Yeah. So, I'm going to say MKBHD. He
Gotcha.
just launched a shoe. So, there we go. Yeah.
Best country?
Best country. Oh,
Can't be UK. It can't be UK.
No. I would like to move to Dubai one day, so I'm going to see Dubai.
You mean the UAE?
I've only been there once. Yeah, exactly. But I'm going to visit there hopefully in a month or two. I've got a friend over there that I'm going to visit and spend some time with and do all the silly things. So, yeah, I'm going to say the UAE.
Okay, cool.
Take me to Dubai.
Yeah, Dubai is, I mean, I've never been myself, but at some point, got to make a trip there.
Yeah, it's ridiculous in a lot of ways, and I think you're going to have to spend a lot of time indoors because in the summer it's just like you just go outside and you just die instantly from the heat.
Especially guys like us, man.
Yeah.
We live in cold,
yeah.
colder places, so.
I know, but yeah, I guess there, but maybe somewhere in Europe as well, but I don't know. But I'm gonna stick with my first choice.
Okay, best human.
Best human.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I mean, this is where I should say something very, like very sensible and say it's my wife or something like that, isn't it?
Or Brandon. That would work.
I'm looking at your face, and that was the first thing I was thinking of, actually. Yeah, and the whole thing's working great today. The hairstyle, the face, still got that fresh face. So yeah, absolutely, you're right. Why didn't I say that first?
I don't know. It's okay. We all slip up sometimes.
We all make mistakes, and I should. Best animal. Oh, I'm more recently I'm a cat guy. I used to be a dog guy growing up, but we've got a lot of cats in the family now. So yeah, I'm gonna go with cats.
Fair enough. Worst human.
A worst human. Oh, there's plenty of those on the news every day. So yeah, maybe those guys. And also a bad trait would be I don't know, how would you find a worst human that is only the worst because they do something bad with guitars? That's one that we're going to have to think about. What would be What would make someone a terrible human because they do something with their guitars that they shouldn't do? That's a question for maybe both of you guys.
Yeah, maybe. I was honestly just thinking
Yeah.
of humans in general, but
Yeah, yeah.
So we're gonna condense it to strictly guitar, like.
Yeah, yeah. Like, would you say, oh, that guy plays gauge 8 strings? He must be an absolutely awful human being. I mean, I'm gauge 9, so I'm not much lighter, not much heavier than that, you know, because I have very soft fingers, you know. I can't play gauge 10s unless it's a Strat or a Delos, and that's on 10s. But everything else in this room is 9s.
I think the question or the answer to that though is pretty easy. It's the douchebag with the acoustic that just you know, everybody loves, but he's just playing like the 4 chords, you know, singing.
Yes, that needs to be you should do an advert. Are you a douchebag with an acoustic? If so, have I got the deal that you need? And then off into the pitch. All right.
And worst animal.
Worst animal. My gut is saying snakes. You know, I'm not a massive fan of them, but you know, at the same time, I'm not like anti-snakes. I'm not looking for snakes to get rid of them, but yeah, I'm not a massive fan of snakes. I've got to say, but yeah, you know, I'm going to stick with my gut. You know, and I remember one time I was shooting a video in the desert, and I jumped over what I thought was some rocks, and I was having the time of my life. You know, -5 degrees, early morning. We were like doing a video shoot, and I jumped over a rattlesnake pit. And I remember like jumping across and then looking down and seeing all the snakes, and that tormented me for many years. And hearing all the rattles going, I was like, get me back to the trailer, get me back to the trailer. It was, you know, because like if I stood, I'm sure if I stood on them, God knows what would have happened. I would have had a fight on my hands.
Yeah, we
I
might
would have
not
had to call you.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we might not be having this conversation here today. So.
So yeah, bad animals.
Fair enough. That was the last rapid fire
Lovely, easy.
question. Yeah. So cool, man. So, and where can people find you?
Yeah, so I guess Instagram still at McRocklin, Facebook /McRocklin, YouTube is /McRocklin, and schoolofmcrock.com. But I think polychromedsp.com. Take a free trial, check it out, see what you think, and if you love it, give it a shot.
So the guitar chefs, are the guitar chefs getting a discount on that or what?
Let's go. Use the discount code McRocklin20, all uppercase, get 20% off. How's that?
That's not bad. You're welcome, guys.
There we go. Polychromesp.com, use the code McRocklin20.
Some people hate that sound. I actually am one of the rare people that love it because
There we go.
it's just ridiculous, but it fits.
It is. Yeah, I think that is the thing. It is a completely ridiculous horn type of sound, isn't it? It's not, you know, like, imagine if we dropped that into the middle of our song. I mean, you'd be kicked off of Spotify, I'm sure. But like, yeah. But for a live stream sound, for the special moments, it's okay. It's
Needed, necessary. Cool. All right, man. Well, yeah, it was great chatting with you here today. That's all we got. So,
Hey, thank you so much. My pleasure. Thank you for having me on, man. I really, really appreciate it, and good to see both of you guys today. And yeah, had a fun time, and great to see you. It's been a while since we've seen each other on the videos, and glad that you're looking well, both of you, and everything's going good. So thank you guys. Appreciate it, man.